Hello and welcome back to the only weekly Roshidere review show that isn't weekly and isn't a review show. These have been running a bit long per episode, but I'd urge you to check out the first two if you haven't already, because today we're gonna keep it short and sweet for good reason, probably. And I know what you're saying, but this was the first big flashback episode, and this was the first big progress episode. And that's all true, but I feel as if I already covered much of the characterization and theme stuff that was simply confirmed or further expanded upon here. Not saying I'm just gonna skip over everything, but I'm gonna try not to spend a lot of time simply retreading ground or summarizing scenes. But anyway, enough waffling around. This is a rom-com, and what really matters are the characters and the themes. So let's start with Alya.
They see me rolling, they hate it.
Her flashback sequence was a really nice way to start explaining why she is the way that she is. Work ethic and temperamentally speaking, but I must admit that I felt much of this was already apparent from the first episode. Now, that's probably because I watched the first episode like 3 times, but hey, much like Alya, I pride myself on taking things that really aren't that serious far too seriously. And honestly, this bit was kind of painfully relatable. Her work ethic turned her into an isolationist and a workaholic, and I would imagine that if not for Kuze's intervention, instead of her turning into someone with at least the potential to work with and one day maybe even motivate others, she might have also become an overbearing control freak with absurd standards when inevitably forced to work with others as well. I wouldn't know anything about that though. As Alya herself puts it, I really don't have what it takes to influence people. This is Alya's greatest weakness as far as I can tell. It's no accident that they drew attention to this not just during the mediation scene, but also during the climax of the flashback episode, when Kuze was instructing her on how to better get the school event taken care of, not just by trying to accomplish everything by herself, but by figuring out how to motivate the other participants. When we cut back to flashback age Alya again, we also hear the words, "If trusting people means I'll regret it later, I'd much rather do things alone." Clearly this must be in reference to something else that happened in her past and continues to influence her, but that's just my speculation. The other line that stuck out to me would definitely be, "Nobody can keep up with me anyway." Saying that, I've looked down on people, pushed them away, and refused to ever reach out to them. Who would ever listen to a person like that? And that's true, but I don't think it's only because of the reasons that she gives. A big part of the issue stems from the fact that she simply lacks the experience and the social intelligence, because as far as we can tell so far, she never made the attempt in the first place. Now I really dug the message about learning to motivate others instead of just trying to do all the work yourself. But from Alya's end, I also really appreciated her talk about how she didn't want people to see her as a princess, as if some birthright or God-given ability outweighed her genuine efforts. I'm not saying it went super deep, but it definitely got me thinking about that whole talent versus discipline / hard work thing, and I always appreciate that theme. It's always driven me a little bit crazy, personally speaking, when people tell me that I'm talented or gifted at guitar, for example, when the reality is I used to practice 8 hours a day. No one is born so overwhelmingly special that they can outdo someone's hard work with innate talent. That is, as she puts it, a fairy tale. And not to get on my soapbox, but I think it's a fairy tale we often foolishly sell to the youth. That of talent and blessings over what is truly valuable. Well-honed skills, a focused work ethic, and real-world experience. Stay hard! Between these 2 episodes, I'd say we also got 2 pretty good examples that, Ice Princess or not, Alya can be wholly emotional and unreasonable. It just takes a lot to strike the nerve that pries it out of her. Speaking of Alya being emotional and unreasonable, as far as the quote-unquote confession and mind-reading scene, I just don't know if Kuze really realizes what he's getting himself into at this point. Alya is the type of chick to, within the course of minutes, tell you that she loves you in a foreign language, slap you to the ground, and then drop you a surprise goodnight kiss like none of it was a big deal. And like, all I'm saying is, you really didn't have to go that far, man. I mean, I'm already into Russian chicks enough as it is.
I've been waiting for this day. Hurt me more.
As a final note on this scene, I really love the mirrored use of the line, "Shut up and take my hand." Same line, polar opposite emotional connotations. Pretty clever.
You're pretty good.
You're pretty good.
In episode 3, we are also more formally introduced to Masha, Elder Kuze, or Maria. Apparently her actual name is Maria. Anyway, I'm making some assumptions based on that mysterious locket and stuff, but childhood friend is childhood friend. It seems obvious to me that Kuze and her must be connected. There's a reason they obscured the character in the amulet, and I'd say sa is also probably shorthand for the second syllable in ma, sa, chi, ka. I do still think that Alya had to have been the one to teach him Russian though. Both sisters have the same bedhead bang as the chick in the flashback, but only Alya shares her primary eye color. Obviously that begs the question, why did they forget? And why did her hair change colors? But I'll refrain from speculating too much on that for now. Feels like we're kind of back where we started in a sense, with episode 1's fake childhood friend trying to nose her way in between Alya and Kuze. But that's fine, I guess. Childhood friend is childhood friend. All I can do is hope that it's not as bad as it could be, insofar as it will almost certainly push this love triangle with the sisters, because I think that's obviously where things are going. I mean, just consider this line, "But you should hurry up and tell him how you feel. Not much you can do if someone takes him away from you." That seems like a pretty clear hint. She's clearly into him. Strictly going off of anime logic, of course. There is one thing that I totally loved about her introduction though. It was funny seeing Kuze have to work with someone seemingly even less serious than himself. The president's lion doll was also pretty damn funny, but let's keep it moving. Before talking about Kuze, a few mystery elements, and the president's big plan, let me just say that I really have been enjoying the way the series feeds us breadcrumbs of the flashback mystery elements, while seldom actually trying to draw big, intensely dramatic moments out of them. Like, the drama mystery stuff is being fed to us without in any way distracting from the relaxed, wholesome, fluffy vibes, or creating big cliffhangers with all the typical mystery box manufactured drama type stuff. Anyway, this time we found out through a relatively ambiguous flashback that Kuze and Yuki's parents separated when they were younger. They appear younger here than in the other flashbacks to their previous student council exploits as well, at which point Yuki was looking much healthier. Once apologizing for not being able to go along with Kuze, now asking him to always be there for him, followed by a flash to a present-day Kuze looking conflicted and regretful regardless of Masha and the president's support, as he contemplates joining Alya in the student council race. That all feels pretty important, and I didn't know where else to put it, so hopefully that all still made sense bouncing back and forth. Anyway, Kuze chose to go with her father, Yuki chose to stay behind, assumedly trapped thanks to her illness. It's kind of obscure, but that's at least the impression I got. Kuze also makes mention of Yuki's various expertise, and notes that their mother taught her a lot, in this case about brewing and presenting tea professionally. There's also of course the question of the childhood friend flashback stuff, and I still definitely think that this is Alya. I think overall the story's web of mystery backstory flashback stuff that is slowly unfolding before us is going to turn out to be all about these characters' past traumas and how they've affected them up to this point and serve to explain the personality traits and quirks that still don't fully make sense. Why Yuki teases Alya so aggressively, why Kuze, Alya, and Masha don't remember each other even though it seems clear that they have some kind of connection, etc. I wonder if we're going to go full amnesia twist for Alya, but I kinda hope it's a little less cliche than that. As far as other serious stuff that's coming down the line, I think it's mostly going to come down to the student council race and what I might refer to as school politics. I made a note of this in the first episode, but this show definitely distinguishes itself more and more as an actual quote-unquote school anime, as opposed to what we often get, anime that simply take place in school even though school is completely irrelevant from the themes and ideas present. I'm sure that that's a positive for some and a negative for others, but I definitely think that this element is going to be continuing to ramp up as we get into the student council race and whatever confrontations come out of that. I didn't talk much about the mediation scene itself and the president's big plan for Kuze, so let's talk about what I thought was the most interesting element thematically. I didn't really think about this immediately, but I don't think it's just that Kuze realized how desperately in need of help Alya was. I think the council president's words in the beginning also definitely had some real influence. In revealing his own reasons for running for student council president, he illustrated to Kuze that he didn't necessarily need some grandiose, justifiable, or perfectly clear goal in order to pursue the position. Perhaps this is a way of illustrating that for Kuze, it is partially a selfish or perhaps undefined goal for him to make Alya the president. Or maybe I'm reading way too deep into this. Who knows at this point? Anywho, it's simple enough an idea, but obviously Kuze's winning play in the mediation was to find a solution where everyone benefited. As he says, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Key to this strategy is of course that he has knowledge of the relationship between the manager and the baseball captain, and the ability to influence the manager knowing her situation, the context of all 3 parties, and once again, how to motivate each group to work together on a mutually beneficial outcome. And of course, the president's plan worked. Kuze actually joined the student council.
Congratulations! 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 situations.
Now these were perfectly passable episodes, but I'd say outside of the most standout moments, they were probably the weakest of the four, at least visually speaking. I definitely felt a not quite significant, but certainly noticeable dip into what I like to call the Sakuga slump, and I think that assertion holds up throughout the next two episodes that are now out as well. As far as episode 3 goes, the explosion cut behind our new favorite bald shy guy Bro-Bro-kun was certainly nice, and I enjoyed the dreamy visuals leading right up to the dance that we didn't get to see. Damn it. But otherwise, I wouldn't really call anything else here dynamic or standout. As far as episode 4 goes, I enjoyed the walkway scene, and obviously the quote-unquote confession scene was quite nice as well. This is also the part where I would have spent half the video gushing about the quality of the fan service once again, but discounting this scene, which exists to remind us that this is indeed still the Russian Feet anime, there basically was no fan service. You might also count the numerous leg angle walking animations, but that's just called having any sense of direction whatsoever. Don't make it weird. Anyway, should I do another legs only supercut like I did with Darling in the Franxx?
Genius, farmer. Genius!
Now I'd heard through the grapevine that this element was going to begin mostly disappearing outside of one especially spicy scene that's coming later, so this makes sense. If you're heavy into the more explicit leaning fan service, I would temper expectations for at least its consistent presence from here on out. Also considering that most of what I saw in episode 5 is more of what Kuze refers to, at least in the non-crunchy sub, as subtle sexiness.
全店は帰って萎える。シラリズムこそが正義だ。
It is what it is. I absolutely love fan service personally, and kinda hope I'm wrong with the quality level that we saw in episodes 1 and 2, but it's possible that there's just gonna be less time to allocate to it as the plot really kicks in.
私の C カップじゃ満足できなかったというのか。アリャさんの E カップ各推定にたむらかされおって。
And ultimately, like they always say, better safe than left holding your— Anyway, I'm positive that I left some important stuff out, but it's been a strange couple of weeks, and it's high time that I shove this one out the door and get some other admittedly more important projects done as well, if only to prove to myself that I am indeed capable of doing so. Peace.